And now I'd like to call upon a very close colleague and friend of mine, and we share very similar life experiences. And so in narrating his bio, I'll be narrating a lot of my own actually. Maulana Umar and I began our formal Islamic studies in Canada. Then we both traveled to Blackburn, UK, where we were roommates for about 3 years. And we studied the Islamic Sciences together. Then he went to South Africa, where he finished off his Islamic Sciences, the Alimiyah in South Africa, in a renowned seminary, Darul Uloom Azadville. After that, he returned to Canada, enrolled in the University of Toronto, where he completed a master's in Pastoral Studies, we both did, with training in psychotherapy. He currently serves as the Muslim Chaplain at the University of Toronto Scarborough campus, and is the Manager of Operations and a psychotherapist for Khalil Center, Canada. Just before I continue, I'd just like to request all the participants, everyone here, to please, for the men's side, move to your right, and the female side, move to your left. So all the other brothers and sisters that are coming, there's space for them at the end. So there's a lot of space in the middle, so that I request the brother side, please move to your right, and the lady side, please move to your left. Jazakumullah khair, so that if any other sisters or brothers come, they can just have a seat. Jazakumullah khair. Maulana Umar साहब वो हमारे बहुत करीबी दोस्त हैं, और वो उन्होंने कनाडा में अपनी आलमियत की पढ़ाई शुरू की है, हम दोनों ने शुरू की है। फिर वो इंग्लैंड जाकर वहाँ पढ़ाई का सिलसिला जारी रखा, और फिर वो साउथ अफ्रीका जाकर वहाँ से बराबर हासिल की दारुल उलूम आज़ादविल में। उसके बाद वो वापस कनाडा आए, और फिर यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ टोरंटो में उन्होंने कोर्स शुरू किया, मास्टर्स का कोर्स पास्टोरल स्टडीज़ में, जिसके साथ साथ उन्होंने साइकोथेरेपी की ट्रेनिंग हासिल की। आजकल वो चैपलिन है यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ टोरंटो स्कॉर्बरो कैंपस में, और मैनेजर ऑफ ऑपरेशंस और साइकोथेरेपिस्ट हैं खलील सेंटर कनाडा के साथ। I call upon Maulana Umar.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. My dear respected brothers, sisters, elders, mothers in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So the topic given to me is on depression and anxiety in Islam. And depression and anxiety in Islam versus depression and anxiety in Christianity versus depression and anxiety in Judaism is pretty much the same thing. So we're just going to be talking about depression and anxiety today, inshallah. And just by a show of hands, how many of you know another person who has suffered from a challenge of depression or anxiety? Okay, so that's more than 50% of us. And that's pretty much relevant to modern day Canadian statistics, where over 49% of individuals at some time in their life suffer from depression or anxiety, or any mental health challenge. And mental health challenges are very close to me, particularly because when I went to go study abroad and came back, I served as an imam, I taught maktab, I did the regular imamat sort of thing, and I just felt it wasn't my calling. It wasn't something that was particularly set out for me. I felt anybody else could do it, but there was something more that I had to tap into. And the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, "Allahu fi auni al-abd ma kana al-abdu fi auni akhi." That Allah is in the service and the nusra of that individual who is in the service and the aid of a servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so the way we do khidmah and service of others can be in a multitude of different ways. It could be through helping them out psychologically, it could be through helping them out physically, it could be helping out as a personal fitness trainer, and so on and so forth. And so when the program opened up at U of T, I thought, like, this is just another form of providing khidmah and service to the community, as opposed to being an imam or teaching the Qur'an exclusively. And so just going into depression and anxiety, there are a few myths that our community believes in, but again, they're just myths. They're not true, they're false. So one of them is children do not experience mental health issues. And in Islam, we know that the difference between an adult and a child is up until the age of bulugh. There's no such thing as a teenager. in the Islamic context. Children do experience mental health issues. So if your child is 8 years old, or your child is 10 years old, and they're going to school, they're being bullied, or something is going on at home, it affects their mental state. It's real. They're sad, they have emotions, they feel. And so to tap into their feelings and talk to them about it. Mental health problems don't affect me. Everyone thinks they're safe from mental health challenges and issues, right? And there are specific languages to use when talking about mental health related issues and challenges, right? To stay away from the word disability and use challenge or issue is something that's extremely important. Tap into the sensitivities with regards to the topic, right? A lot of us at times we feel that we don't learn or acknowledge that a person who's going through a specific challenge or issue, mentally, physically, whatever it may be, we don't understand what language to use. If someone is diagnosed with cancer, we ask, is your father still surviving? It's against adab of the language to be able to use those terminologies to people who are suffering. Right? There's the fifth of those that are suffering. There's also the adab of those that are suffering. To tap into that, recognize it, learn it, and acknowledge it. Because a person who suffers from anxiety and depression is the same as a person who suffers from diabetes. And sugar in our community is extremely high, right? 75% of us in our community, we suffer from diabetes. And diabetes and depression, there's no difference between the two. They're both challenges that our community faces. They're both real issues that we face. Another myth could be, or is, people with mental health needs, even those who are managing their mental illness, cannot tolerate the stress of holding down a job. At times we feel that I'm going through depression, I'm going through an episode, right? Or somebody is going through an episode, a family member, right? A friend, a relative, that they can't hold down their job. They can. They're normal, regular people, and I don't like to use the word normal, right? They're people who suffer challenges day to day, mentally, psychologically, are just as capable as others to be able to do the same work that you're doing. They're considered mood disorders, right? So when a person is suffering mentally, it affects their mood. And so how can we deal with that mood disorder? There are many different variations. And to talk about mental health and anxiety and depression in 15 minutes, it's so difficult. Extremely difficult. I have stats that I want to go through and talk about the Islamic relation. When we look at the Prophet ﷺ's life, we see that a youngster came to him. Right? Anas bin Malik narrates that a youngster came to the Prophet of Allah ﷺ, and he came to him with a challenge that he was facing. And he said, give me permission, Ya Rasulullah, to commit zina. Right? Give me permission to fornicate. And so this anxiety built up around him that he didn't know what to do, and he wanted some advice. And so he sought out pastoral care, but he also sought it in a counseling session from none other than Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And when he went to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, come closer to me. He embraced him, right? And he understood that this youngster was suffering from anxiety, from a challenge. He wants something, he doesn't know how to go about it, he doesn't know what to do, he doesn't know if he should do it or not do it, so he's coming to talk to me about it. That's exactly what anxiety is. It's a fear, it's an emotion, and something triggers it, and you're thinking, and now there's all of these worries and these thoughts going on in your mind. And they're not just regular thoughts and worries. At times it can be a clinical disorder, right? And it can deepen into such a state where a person has to take medication for it. They have to go for therapy for that kind of anxiety disorder. And there's different types. There's OCD. There's a person who's making wudu for 7 minutes, or 10 minutes, or even 15 minutes, because they don't know if water's touched their elbows, so they're washing water not 3 times, but 15 times or 20 times. That's OCD. That's also a type of anxiety disorder. And a person to challenge that, to challenge their psyche, their cognitions, their understandings of what's going on, they need to seek out therapy, talk to somebody who's trained that can help them out remove their worries and their concerns and their fears. And then you have depression, something that's probably happened in the past. A death of a family member, a pet. It could be a health, a lifestyle issue. And now you're grieving over that, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions these emotions in the Qur'an in relation to Jannah, because in Jannah we don't feel these disorders or these mood disorders, right? لا يحزنون لا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون, that they do not fear and they will not suffer from grief or depression or sadness. It's going to be a happy place. And so this is why the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam taught us the dua that Shaykh had mentioned, right? Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-hammi wal-hazan. Ham is what? In modern day, the modern day equivalent for ham is what? Anyone know? Worry. It's a type of anxiety. Oh Allah, protect me from anxiety. Protect me from this worry, from this worry that clouds my mind, that clouds my judgment, that I'm not able to function correctly. And hazan is a depression. It's a depressive state. This sadness, and there are things that trigger this sadness, right? This depressive state. And so the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us this dua. And this dua should be a regular. Then you have mindfulness meditation, this new modern equivalent of the Buddhist theory of mindfulness. In Islam, we have something called tazkiyah and tasawwuf. In the hadith of Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam, he came to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He asked him, Mal Islam, Mal Iman, Mal Ihsan. Al-Ihsan an ta'bud Allah ka'annaka tara. Ihsan is worshipping Allah as if you can see Him. But if you can't see Allah, then know and recognize that Allah is watching over you. To get into that state, we have a path. And that path is known as tasawwuf or suluk. Become one with the Shaykh. And recognizing that you have, and we all have flaws. And taking the focus away from ourselves and our relationship with ourselves, but focusing our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and connecting with the divine. They say people who are inclined spiritually are less impacted by mental health challenges. By how many percent? 64%. Connect with your Creator. Connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Connect with Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So that you become one with Allah. And if you are one with Allah, Allah is looking after you. If you have a relationship with Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, your focus is greater than yourself. Now you're not just thinking about you. You're thinking about you in relationship with the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. There's not much more I can say in 15 minutes, so please forgive me. And inshallah, this is just an introduction to this discussion on mental health, and we hope to delve into it more, inshallah. I just want to thank the organizers for allowing us, bringing all these speakers together, and all of you coming together to understand, acknowledge that we have these challenges in our community. We have this problem in our community that has become conflated. And alhamdulillah, we have opened, or we are opening on February 1st, a mental health center, a clinic. That's going to be a collaborative care model where we're going to have a psychiatrist, psychologist, psychotherapist, and religious consultants to come together to bring healing to the community. Because healing is extremely important. The same way that we go to a clinic, medical clinic, to doctors for diabetes, we should be going to a clinic with a collaborative care model for depression and anxiety and other mental disorders. So make dua for Khalil Center, make dua for all of us, inshallah. Jazakumullahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin wa salatu wa salamu ala sayyidil mursalin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa ajma'in. मैं समझ रहा हूँ कि जितने भी स्पीकर्स हैं माशाल्लाह वो जब ये टॉपिक को डिस्कस कर रहे हैं वो खुद जा रहे हैं डिप्रेशन के अंदर. उनके सामने बड़ा टॉपिक है, बहुत कम वक्त है, और जो मुझे उसमें से भी 2-3 मिनट में करना है जो उन्होंने किया, तो मेरी हालत आप समझ सकते हैं. तो मैं मौलाना साहब ने जो कहा इंशाल्लाह 3 मिनट में उसको ख़त्म करूँगा. पहले तो मौलाना साहब फरमाते हैं कि آج کل جو ہمارے ریسرچ ہے اس میں بتاتے ہیں کہ جو ہم اس کو ہماری زبان میں ٹینشن ہوتی ہے، آدمی کو زندگی میں بہت کبھی کبھی ٹینشن، جس کو ہم برے دین کہتے ہیں، آج بہت پریشان، اس کو ڈپریشن، اینگزائٹی وغیرہ بولتے ہیں. تو ہر آدمی اپنی زندگی میں 49% یعنی ہر 2 میں سے ایک آدمی ایک مرتبہ کم از کم زندگی میں اس سے گزرتا ہے. لیکن ہماری کمیونٹی میں کچھ ایسی باتیں ہیں جن کی کوئی ریالٹی نہیں، وہ صرف ہم سوچتے ہیں. مثلا ان میں سے ایک فرماتے ہیں کہ ہم یہ سوچتے ہیں کہ بچے کو کبھی ڈپریشن نہیں، کبھی ان کو ایسی سٹیج ان کی لائف میں نہیں آتا جس میں وہ بہت ٹینشن نہیں ہوتی، اس لیے ہم کبھی بچوں کے بارے میں سوچتے نہیں، ڈسکس نہیں کرتے. حالانکہ ان کی زندگی میں ایسے بہت سارے مراحل پیش آتے ہیں، کبھی کوئی بلی کر رہا ہے، کبھی ہوم ورک کا ٹینشن ہے، کبھی ماں باپ کا بیہیویئر اس پہ افیکٹ کر رہا ہے، لیکن وہ بول نہیں سکتے. اسی طریقے سے دوسرا، ہم یہ سمجھتے ہیں کہ مجھے کبھی ٹینشن نہیں ہو سکتی، دنیا والوں کو ہو جائے، میں تو بہت پرفیکٹ آدمی ہوں. یعنی ہم اپنے آپ کو یہ سمجھتے ہیں کہ مجھے کوئی بیماری نہیں ہے. حالانکہ قرآن شریف میں اللہ پاک فرماتے ہیں کہ لا خوف علیہم ولا هم يحزنون، یہ جنت میں ہوگا. صرف دنیا میں ہر آدمی کو خوف اور حزن سے جو ہے گزرنا ہوگا. یعنی یہ بھی ایک ٹیسٹ ہوگا، جیسے وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ مولانا صاحب نے پہلے بیان کیا. یہ تو اب ہر آدمی جب اس سے گزرتا ہے تو اس کا علاج کیا ہے؟ ہمیں تو پہلے معلوم کرنا ہے کہ یہ بیماری ہے، آدمی جو ہے اس بیماری سے گزرتا ہے. تو پہلا علاج انہوں نے کہا کہ خود ماں باپ اس بچے کا علاج کر سکتے. نبی کریم صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم کے سامنے ایک نوجوان آئے تو آپ صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم نے دیکھا کہ وہ آدمی کچھ ایسی چیز سے گزر رہا ہے، مطلب وہ کچھ بات نہیں کہہ رہا ہے، کچھ کہنا چاہتا ہے لیکن اس کو جو ہے ہمت نہیں ہو رہی. تو آپ صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم نے اس کو گلے سے لگا. یعنی ہم اپنے بچوں کے ساتھ اسی طریقے سے جو لوگ اس بیماری میں مبتلا ہیں ان کو اپنا جو ہے اپنا لو اور ان کے ساتھ ہم کیسے جو ہے ان کی کیئر کر رہے بتائیں، انشاءاللہ اس سے اس کا ٹینشن تھوڑا کم ہو. دوسرا علاج اس کا یہ ہے کہ ہم ڈاکٹرز کے پاس جائیں. عام طور پر ہم ڈاکٹرز کے پاس نہیں جاتے، حالانکہ مولانا نے بتایا کہ OCD بیماری ہے کہ بعض مرتبہ آدمی وضو ہی کرتا رہتا ہے، اس کو ابھی لگتا ہے کہ ابھی میں پاک ہوا ہی نہیں. تو یہ بیماری ہے، اس کی علاج ہے، اس کی دوائیاں ہیں. تو ڈاکٹروں سے جو ہے ہمیں مدد لینی چاہیے. اور تیسری بات مولانا نے فرمائی کہ اللہ والوں کے پاس بھی جانا چاہیے. تزکیہ جو ہے اللہ سبحانہ و تعالیٰ سے ہمارا تعلق کم ہوگا تو اس کی وجہ سے بھی یہ ڈپریشن ہوتا ہے. اور فرماتے ہیں کہ جو لوگ اللہ سے متعلق ہیں، ان کا تعلق اللہ سے ہے، وہ 64% اس بیماری میں جو ہے بہت کم یعنی ان کو علاج ہو جاتا ہے. مطلب وہ 64% اس بیماری سے محفوظ رہتے ہیں اگر ان کا تعلق اللہ سبحانہ و تعالیٰ سے ہے. اسی لیے یہ تو ایک ایسی بات ہو گئی. ہمارے دو جمعہ سے پہلے مولانا صاحب کا بیان تھا تو کسی نے ان کو پوچھا تھا کہ ڈپریشن کا علاج کیا ہے. تو انہوں نے کہا کہ قرآن پاک میں اللہ پاک فرماتے ہیں کہ صبح شام اللہ کی یاد کرو. یہ جو 2 وقت ہے اس میں بہت پیک پر ہوتا ہے ڈپریشن. تو مولانا اللہ پاک نے قرآن پاک میں فرمایا وَسَبِّحْ بِحَمْدِ رَبِّكَ قَبْلَ طُلُوعِ الشَّمْسِ وَقَبْلَ. ہمارا تعلق اللہ تعالیٰ سے مضبوط ہوگا تو انشاءاللہ یہ ٹینشن اور وریز جو ہے اس میں بہت حد تک کمی آئے گی.